maybe when we get out here, you'll go in the next room where the wall is a little bit lower, and you'll be able to see the ramp that is just down here. What remains of the ramp, of course.
Wow.
It's still impressive.
That is very impressive.
After 2,000 years of earthquake, erosion, it's impressive. Of course, it was much wider. So that the attack took place from here. Obviously, from the other side, it's so steep. Roman came from Jerusalem by the land here, and they settled all around in 8 camps. And they saw that it was not possible to do a traditional siege. What's a traditional siege? You surround the place, you block all the exits, you make a wall around it. You can see the wall is still there, down there. They built a wall all around. They put soldiers on the wall. They built 8 camps all around. That means nobody can escape. And then what do? Then you wait. You wait until they surrender. Why would they surrender?
Cut off from supplies.
When there's no more water, food, but water is there already. So that's a traditional siege. And usually the people surrender. They don't go to the end. They don't let themselves die of thirst. But here, Herod has built so many cisterns and had so much water here. I told you of swimming pools, baths. All these empty fields here that you see, only rocks. That was gardens. They were fields. They were growing here everything they needed. So they had animals. You could have milk, eggs, you could have chicken, you could have whatever you wanted. You had animals eating here, so you could have meat. Everything. Everything was growing here. Where did they get the water? We have 1 inch of rain a year. That's nothing. There are flash floods. Remember? Flash floods coming from the mountain. Herod architects were able to put dams on these 2 valleys. There's one canyon there and one here. And from these dams, they built aqueducts who come just below us. You know what there's below us?
Cistern.
2 rows of cisterns. There's about 12 cisterns. Each cistern, not like the small one we saw, the size of a cathedral. Each one, they are all connected. When one is full, it flows into the second and third and fourth. 2 rows because there are 2 dams and 2 aqueducts. And then you have, that means underneath is almost hollow. You know, cutting all this rock to make this huge cistern and plaster them and manage that's incredible. The moment you have so much water, you are completely independent. Josephus Flavius say that when the Romans were here and they suffered from the heat, and they have big numbers. We're talking of the Roman legion, the 10th legion. A legion is about 6,000 soldiers. But they have also auxiliary forces that are taken from the people who collaborate. Here there were enough Gentiles who collaborated with the Romans and fought with them. So we estimate the size of the Roman army at about 15,000. And then you have thousands of all kinds of people who follow the Roman army for what? All kinds of traders and others who are buying from the soldiers, selling them services. You want laundry? You have somebody doing that. Soldiers, they were actually living off the Roman army. All the services you can imagine, the good ones and the bad ones, they were traveling. A small village was traveling with the Roman army in the back. And don't forget, when the Roman army moves, the soldiers have a lot of goods. You know, they plunder the place. Everyone takes a part. How do they carry all that? Every Roman soldier has his own chariots, driven by his own servant in the back. Imagine the convoy in the back, everyone carrying all the things he has. When he goes back home, he has to take that with him. But the army goes faster. It's not important, but the rest is coming after. That's why the Roman army, when they advance in unknown territory, they build the road. They build the road as they advance, so they do not have to go fast. We're well organized. They build the roads. That's why we say all the roads lead to Rome. Because you take them the other way, you go to Rome. So like a spider web, that's exactly what the Roman, in the center where the spider is Rome. And all the rest are roads. And they cover the whole empire with these roads. because of their chariot and their armies and everything. So the Roman army had a big problem of water. And Josephus say how the rebels here, remember they are rebels and their families. By the end of the war you have not only rebels but their families, refugees from all over, about 1,000 people. And yet he said that they were hanging their clothes to dry on the walls facing the Roman army. That means not only they had enough water to drink, they had a laundry day. That shows that if they wanted to show the Romans, go away, there's no chance we surrender, we have enough water. And then so that was the Roman did not wait long, they knew the people had enough water. So what do? You launch the attack. You cannot send the soldiers on the path one by one. So they built a highway. That's called the ramp. A highway, very wide, so they can send there a big tower. You saw that in the movie, yes? Yeah. It's impressive. Something like 60 feet tall. Because the highest ramp they could build was short about 50 feet from the base of the walls. So what's the point? You get into a cliff. If they make it taller, it will collapse. So they knew that. So they built a tower to compensate. And the tower is on wheels, so you can push it there. And on top of the tower, the battering ram. That's what they did. And now, who is building?
Slaves.
Thousands of slaves. And that explains why they finish it in a record time. In about 8 weeks, it was finished. That takes years to build. Why that? Because the rebels decided they are not going to defend themselves. Defending themselves is throwing stone and killing the builders. And they did not want to kill their brethren. Remember, the reason for religion was religious. We want to keep our gods. We don't want the Romans and their divinities. And we are ready to die. And then, so we follow the 10 Commandments. Are you going to break the 10 Commandments to save your life? Kill innocent. Thou shalt not murder. We have a little bit of translation. In Hebrew, lirtzoach is to murder, laharog is to kill. And the Bible says, lirtzoach, thou shalt not murder. Kill, you can kill your enemy, you're allowed to do that to defend yourself. Murder, that means killing an innocent. And they would not roll the big stone that were very common. From the top, you roll a big stone, it does a lot of damage. They didn't do that. In a way, they sealed their fate already at that moment. Roman built that ramp without interruption. Only when they brought the tower and the battering ram, the battle resumed. That was too late. By the end of the day, the battering ram has destroyed the first and second. There are 2 parallel walls all along Masada, divided into rooms, casemates. It means the garrison lives within the wall. Very clever work of Herod. We have 114 rooms all around making the wall. So they have broken just there the first wall and second wall. End of the day, it has been a rough day for the Romans. They return to have a good night's sleep. And tomorrow, at first light, we'll attack. That's what say the commander. But that's the night when the chief Elazar ben Yair gathered all his men, and Josephus doesn't know the existence of the synagogue. He was not here during the siege. He was on the Roman side. Now we know. The men were gathered as a synagogue, and Elazar makes a very important address, and he tells them, that's it. In a few hours, the Romans are going to take the place. We're going to die. We know that. We did not want to surrender, we know that. But it will be a terrible crime to go fight, wait until the Romans kill us, because then our families here, our daughters and sisters and wives and children will be at the mercy of the Romans. And we have seen how the Romans behave. That means we are going to let them be killed twice. Rape, torture, everything, and then killed. No one is going to survive. So we should give them the final honor. Give them a swift death. That's a long address. Josephus, I think it's 4 or 5 pages. I'm sure Josephus embellishes, maybe add a little bit of his knowledge. No doubt. But the essence is the same. Bottom line, we kill ourselves, but we kill also our families. And quick, before the Romans arrive. And that's what they do. They take a decision to do that. Not a simple decision. People are people are not sure. Lazar Ben Yair is looking at the people and they have tears in their eyes and are not sure what they are going to do. You know, killing your family was probably as hard then than it is today. But the knowledge that you were saving them from a worse condition drove them eventually to go and slaughter their family. That must have been a terrible moment for every man. Once they did that horrible job, remember, they believed in resurrection and they believed that they will meet them soon. They gathered 10 of them, 10 or 11, that depends, and these 10 killed all the others. Once they finished, they burned everything that there was to burn, and then one of them is chosen to kill the 9 ones, and the last one falls on his sword. Remember, like Saul. So there's only one suicide here, and not literally falling on the sword. Maybe that was to avoid the suicide. And probably he missed a few, because when the Roman arrived, first they were surprised, all quiet. They thought there would be some ambush. But no, they saw the bodies of families all spread around. And in one of the dry cisterns they found 2 women alive with 5 children. So 7 who escaped that massacre. And he says an old woman and a widow and their 5 children. So I quickly imagine they did not have a man to kill them at these fatal moments. And they probably are the one who are telling the last of the story to the Romans, to Josephus Flavius. And that's how we know what happened. So the Romans finished the last battle of their long campaign of 7-8 years with frustration. They wanted to finish, everything was burned, nothing to loot. And Josephus Flavius is writing for the Romans. He had to be good for the Romans. He cannot say Romans are bad. And here you feel his Jewish side coming out in his book. He says they were so angry that they exerted their anger on the dead bodies. That means they went to kill the dead people. That was not what they expected. And there was nothing to loot, everything was burnt. And that is the end of that rebellion. The Romans go back home, and that was the end of the rebellion with the fall of Masada. What they never knew is that almost 2,000 years later, the descendant of the slaves and of the Jews will return and claim back their lands. While the Romans are where? In history books. Look at that. A Jew is telling you a story. The Jew who lost the war is here to tell you the story. Not a Roman soldier who won. Not even an Assyrian or Babylonian. All these empires have disappeared. But the Jews who lost all the wars are here. That's an amazing thing, no?
Tito,
yes.
How many defenders were there here?
Sorry?
How many defenders were
According to Josephus Flavius, 967. So less than 1,000.
The soldiers or women? Or
no, families.
Oh.
Yes.
8 years was the
Sorry?
siege?
No, a few weeks was the siege.
Oh, that's it? Yeah.
A few weeks.
Oh.
They had to come only in the winter. In the summer you cannot sustain 20,000 people in the desert. They come just in the winter of year 72 to 73. So what could be the answer? How come the Jews who lost all the wars are still here? Maybe there's something beyond the army. Zacharias says, well, what does he say in the sentence? Lo bekoach,
Not by strength,
not by strength, not by might,
but
but
by my
only
spirit.
by my spirit, says the Lord. So that's something more than the armies. Okay, that's a very good day to talk about that on Memorial Day. You know that they found during excavation 27 skeletons here, and they were buried in the small hill there outside with military honors, like the last defenders of Israel by the new defenders of Israel. That's very, very symbolical. After we teach, I'll say my part of the story, personal story in Masada. Okay.